Many of these agencies actually do have their own court system, basically, right? They call it a quasi-judicial function, but it's pretty much a judicial function, right? They both find facts, meaning that we don't impanel juries for administrative decisions, and they also apply law to situations. So judges within administrative law are well versed in the law itself, but also well versed in the subject matter. You know, if it's with the Federal Trade Commission, you would have judges that reside within that Federal Trade Agency, Commission agency, and they would adjudicate those things. They would be experts on law, but they'd also be experts on, trade things, federal trade things. Okay, they can issue what are called cease and desist orders, which is an order to perhaps a business, telling them to stop whatever behavior they're doing that may be incorrect or wrong according to the rules. And they can do consent orders, and often do a lot of consent orders where, a company may be found to have been violating a particular rule. The judge can order that basically the agency writes a letter to the business. The business says, yeah, we received your letter. Yeah, we agree with your findings, and this is what we're going to do to change. And they come to an agreement, and away they go. Very, very common, actually. Basically what we just kind of talked about. So a cease and desist is an order, there's not the compromise there. Consent decrees are generally, there's some compromise between it, or, it's not unlike we get accredited, right? They're very, very similar. So we get an inspection from an accrediting agency. They come in, and they're going to make some recommendations about what we could do to improve. And we're going to write, this is what we plan to do, and we kind of come to an agreement, and that's basically like a consent decree. A cease and desist is when an agency finds maybe the behavior is egregious, or that maybe the business isn't taking it seriously. They'll write a letter and say, hey, you're going to stop doing that, or else we're going to come down on you hard. Might sue you, might do other things, might even do this. Whoa. Hauling Ronald off, my goodness. So advising, right? They make reports to the President or Congress, and also facts and ideas to the general public, right, within the agency's purview. The Weather Service, the hurricanes and stuff that were coming, that they were engaged in getting out warnings and doing those types of things, right? They publish advisory opinions, things that maybe actions that have been taken and conclusions that judges and whatnot have come to about how things need to proceed within the agency or in regards to specific rules. So investigate. Okay, they do have some subpoena power, probably within the judges, probably grant subpoenas and whatnot. Okay. And their reports, they can do this, right? They can call witnesses, they can get documents. Again, if you're specifically under an agent's authority, like a bank, again for FDIC or the Federal Reserve, either one, you are compelled to provide documentation and whatnot that they would request. Okay. And it's a crime to lie to an agency or their agents, and that's folks that file or fill out fraudulent applications to a bank. They're violating the rules of the FDIC, and they can be held accountable for that. So how are they organized? Well, first, of course, you have a chairperson, and you're seeing them. With the transition of power that we've had this past year, you've seen President Trump appoint a lot of new chair people. Some have already left, and he's had to reappoint ones, right? They preside, appointed by the president, subject to the confirmation. I think most of them, when you get into some of the sub-agencies and whatnot, they may not require the confirmation, but they're required to be confirmed by the Senate in many cases. Like the Federal Reserve, that's the big one that's going on right now. There's a lot of speculation it'll happen this week about who Trump may appoint as the new federal chairman of the Federal Reserve. It has been, what's her name? Now I'm drawing a blank. It'll come to me in a little bit, of course. I can see her, but it's very likely that she'll be replaced. It's a little bit unusual. Oftentimes, Federal Reserve chairmen carry on for quite some time. And then there's a secretary, right, that takes agency minutes, and a legal custodian of records. They have a general counsel, also usually ratified by the Senate. So a lawyer, right, that's the chief legal officer for those. And then they have an executive director, and that's somebody then that handles day-to-day types of things, right, administrative functions, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, director of operations, administrative law judges, advisory council. So, yeah, I'm not going to ask a lot of questions probably about those types of things and how they're organized. So, yeah, we'll come back then and maybe finish up in our next round here.